Make sure I've got everything set the right way. Oh, and we're backwards. Okay, 1 second. I will get
Now,
this.
when I played the piano, you can hear the sound okay?
Yeah, yeah, it
Can
sounds
you know?
great.
Okay, so everything's fine. All right. Because sometimes, like on Zoom, you have to hit something to play the piano and then hit it again to not do it. But
Oh,
so on
interesting.
Discord, yeah, you have to turn something on because the noise cancellation. But
Oh,
I don't think
gotcha.
that
Yeah.
happens on Discord. Yeah.
Well, Discord has some noise cancellation, but unless you turn it
But
on, it doesn't necessarily do it.
there
So
you go.
if it's
So
not turned
so
on,
you won't
then
have it.
then you're good. And I heard even
There we go.
that soft play. So
Okay, then we're fine.
all right. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I am very excited for this conversation. We're going to be talking about music and mental health and Jazz for Peace, which is something that is a really cool organization. And I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about it. Our guest tonight is Rick DellaRatta, and I am so pleased, Rick, to have you joining us. Thank you for taking the time out of your day.
My pleasure. It's great to be with you.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about Rick. And as always, I have some links. So if you are looking to connect with Rick, I'll go ahead and post those links to website and Facebook and LinkedIn and all of these different places that you can connect with him. I'll go ahead and post those into the chat so y'all have them there. Twitter, Instagram, and even a featured music link. So if you're looking to listen to anything, aside from what you might hear tonight, a little spoiler alert there, but aside from what you might hear tonight, feel free to go and check any of those out. But long known as one of the world's finest jazz pianists, Rick DellaRatta also began to receive major recognition as a composer when his symphonic piece Permutata was recorded by the London Symphony Orchestra at the Beatles' famed Abbey Road studios in 1999. And as a unique and important vocalist in 2004, he was included in a definitive listing of the greatest jazz singers of all time in Scott Yanow's book, Jazz Singers. Through his lifelong endeavor to help advance people to their highest potential through the understanding of jazz, as well as spreading peace worldwide through his Jazz for Peace World Tour, Rick is considered to be an innovator and a visionary, a designation that became known by many when he was included by the Foundation Center in their list of the top musician philanthropists of our time, along with Bono, Elton John, Peter Gabriel, and Sting. So quite the list of accomplishments starting us off there. But I would love to know, Rick, what do you enjoy doing when you're not busy creating, composing, or performing music?
You know, one thing I do enjoy doing, and some of my friends are just catching on to it, is I love to ski in the mountains. So I've done it a lot, and there's a lot of people that know I'm a ski bum, but they're not the music guys. But now the music guys are starting to catch on because they see me post things in the winter, skiing and, powder over my head with my ski bum friends and stuff like that. So there's lots of stuff I like. I mean, I like, activities. I like to swim. I like to play a little basketball. I used to play a lot of basketball. It's just that I'm, getting a little up there in age, but love basketball. I like a lot of things, but I do get a lot of ski days in the winter. I have been known to, hit it pretty hard.
So snow skiing, do you do water skiing at all? Two totally different things, I recognize.
I do, yeah, I do it. I do it, but it's more of a recreational activity. Like if I'm on a boat, throw the rope out, and I'll go up. I like to slalom ski, and I've done it, but it's not like a everyday thing. It's not like a
Yeah.
subculture, where you
Yeah.
ride a bike to a ski bus, get on a ski bus, be on the first tram. It's like it's a ritual kind of the snow skiing thing. Whereas the
Yeah.
water skiing it's just a bunch of guys on a boat. And yeah, let's since we're all on the boat, let's throw the rope out and see if Rick water ski or this guy or that guy skiing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun. I like it.
That's how I feel about water skiing. It's like this is fun. I like it. It's a blast. It's also very
Hmm.
silly.
Yeah,
You just
it's
kind
a
of have
lot
to
of
hold
fun.
on. That's all it is. You just got to hold. Well, I mean, there are people who do all sorts of tricks and stuff, but when you're out with just a group
There
of your
are.
friends, that's not it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like it. I don't get to do it that often. I mean, I don't like make sure that I'm on a boat a lot, but I love boats. But
Yeah.
it's not like, it's just, I'm not as ambitious about it. Like if someone invites me
Right.
on their boat, like I enjoy boats.
Yeah, yeah. Boats are great. My parents lived on a boat for a while, so they had a
Oh,
grand
wow.
adventure. They had a very grand
I, you
adventure.
know, I once played in Hong Kong, and there were thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people living on boats, living on them their whole life. Boat
Wow.
people, they call them. They're not that far offshore, and they've never touched their feet on land. They're on the boat their
Oh,
whole life.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are people, they're boat people, yep.
That's
So they're
that's
really
neat.
serious.
Yeah. That's
And there
really
are
neat.
other people that are, yeah, they come on shore once in a while, I think, but they live on, they're mainly on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting, they love it. They swear by it. I
Yeah.
guess it's a peaceful life out there.
Yep. Most definitely. I always said to my parents, good for y'all. I'm glad you can do that. I couldn't. Like if you have an argument with your partner, there's nowhere to go.
It's true. It would be tough in that situation.
Yeah,
I
you
guess where
just you just
jump in
kind
the
of
water,
stuck
take a
out.
swim, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
What
Yep.
are your activities?
Oh, I
What
do
is
all
it?
kinds of things. I mean, mostly gaming. Mostly
Mmm.
gaming, editing this podcast, this
Okay.
labor of love.
Okay.
And then my two
Okay.
my two kids keep me really busy, so they're in, all sorts of martial arts and horses, and the oldest is about to go to
Nice.
college, so
Oh,
lots and lots of
wow.
things.
But gaming it takes a lot of bandwidth, right? The people that use those games, you wear a headset and stuff like that?
Oh, well, so
Some people do,
my
right?
youngest has a VR headset. Yeah, he's got a
Okay.
VR headset. I don't do that though. I am more of a I guess survival type game. Lots of little like crafting type games, and it's more relaxing to me than trying to get into it. Really.
Okay, right.
But my kids
You
both
do it
game too,
for
so they enjoy it together.
recreational.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
There are quite a few, but I mean, there's some crazy true crime stories going on right now in the
Mm-hmm.
news, right? I mean, I have to admit, I'm fascinated by this crazy thing with the CEO of the healthcare company,
Yeah.
also because it happened right like 500 feet from me. I mean, a couple
Oh
football
yeah, you're
fields
super
away from
close.
where I am right now is
Mm-hmm.
where that took place. And it seems to be a major game changer in terms of sentiment. I mean, it's the first time that people really like showed how they really feel about this incredible. And I think what the problem is, we get people start doing stuff and they can't get out of their own way because
Mm-hmm.
these things with the rich getting richer. I mean, you were already so rich so long ago. What did you need this extra money? What do you do with this? I mean, you have
Yeah.
11 vacation homes. What do you need a 12th one? You're not getting that much bang for your buck, but it's all you know how to do. So you keep doing it and you get rich, 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 poor, poor, poor. And then, when the story came out, I mean, that health insurance company, I mean, those guys were denying people's claims like
Mm-hmm.
up the wazoo, and they're exposing the fact that health insurance should not be part of a capitalist society because in order to do well on Wall Street, you have to deny people's claims. That's what makes your
Yeah.
stock price go up. It's a conflict of interest, the whole
Really
thing,
is. Yeah.
and it's pointing it all that out, and it's really a big sea change because I think these people, what happens is they get kind of hooked on it, and now
Mm-hmm.
they're like, to go to the next level, you have to do this horrible thing, and then to go to the next level, it's almost like the cartel drug dealers. They
Yeah.
start out, well, I'm not gonna kill anybody. I'm just gonna like do this or that. Next thing you know, they're blowing up airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's a fascinating thing that the music industry, that it's, if you want to call it music, these Puff Daddy idiots. I mean, that's come out in the open, and a lot, and that's so. Yeah, I am fascinated by some of the true crime things that are current.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The CEO thing is it's very it's hard for me to have sympathy, and I've talked about this extensively in our community. Just it's hard for me to have sympathy. Of course, I don't think that violence is the right answer to a lot of things, but it's really difficult to look at the story and go, yeah, I feel bad for that guy because it's so
Well,
it's so hard to say the number of people that you have killed through your policies.
right.
That's hard to
Well,
justify too, and no one gets upset about that. So, I mean, plenty of people get
Right.
upset about that.
The right thing to do is reform. Reform
Yes.
the system.
Yeah.
If you want to do something right now and make the right decision and on this situation, hey, go ahead and feel bad for anybody who had something bad happen to him like him, and let's do all that. But let's use this as a wake-up call to reform the system. Now, if you
Yeah.
don't do that, you could be asking for more trouble
Yep. I
because people
totally
are
agree.
at their wits' end.
Yep.
I think you need to reform the system, is what I think. And you should have reformed it a long time ago.
Long time
But
ago.
it's so sad that it even comes to this.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the tragedy, is that it comes to really bad things have to happen before people wake up.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely agree. And it's for sure just one of those things that it's tragic, and at the same time, I think it was predictable. I think that something like
Well,
this, if they had really,
you,
looked at it, they could have been
right.
like, people are going to start dying over this in a different way than they
I
already
think,
are.
yeah, I think they go into denial and they just think,
It won't
it's
be
never gonna
them. It
happen.
won't be me.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
won't be them, stuff like that. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows what they were thinking? It surprised me big time because we had gone so long putting up with this,
Mm-hmm.
and people had enabled it by being passive and by allowing it to happen. And you know what? The problem is it's across the board, because
Yeah.
this kind of disparagement and disparity is all over the
Yep.
place.
It is.
So it's a wake up call. There's lots of other things where there's lots of other situations where we have to
Mm-hmm.
wake up.
Most definitely. Well, our topic tonight is all about music and mental health and jazz for peace. So, Growling, I see you in the chat. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions about music and mental health, feel free to pop them into the chat while we are live. We do have a question queue open. We will make sure to get to those and ask them while we're here together. But Rick, can you just share how your journey with music has really influenced your own mental health?
You know, I was just like everybody else. I was like, oh, those songs on the radio sound great. You would never equate music with mental health, or just from the way we're brought up, our mentality. We're handed music as entertainment to sell products,
Mm-hmm.
but that's part of our ism. If you look historically, it's not that case. I mean, indigenous people, indigenous tribes, they used music in all sorts of different ways. And right now, I think, because some of the mental health shows I'm on are very popular, I see they get a lot of views, and I
Mm-hmm.
see that mental health is a big issue right now. And music is a huge part of it. I mean, I don't think I would have my mental health if it wasn't for my own musical connection. It's a spiritual connection that everybody should have with music. They should really take advantage of all that music has to offer, because I'll tell you something about music, it never lets you down.
Mm-hmm.
And good luck finding things that never let you down,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you can get burned everywhere you look right now on this planet. But I have to tell you, music has never, ever let me down. And you can embrace lots of parts of it. But I mean, I meditate at a piano. I
Mm.
do like Tai Chi type of things at a piano. So from a practicing standpoint, everyone should consider the possibility of having a relationship with a musical instrument. That is great for your mental health. And for children, it's an incredible stimulator of the intellect. And then, of course, you get into the listening aspects. You have a lot of options. I mean, I love the music, pop music, and all that, but that's not all you have. Your options are way more, and you should explore them and
Mm-hmm.
find music that really takes you someplace and really, really does something for you. I would say music is a way to raise your frequency, and that's when I told you I skied. I noticed that when I go out on a mountain, if it's a really great mountain and it has incredible terrain and there's a lot of snow, it snows a foot or something, my whole frequency is raised to a
Mm-hmm.
higher level. And then it's really my day to screw up because I'm leaving at such a high frequency, and I can use music to kind of keep it elevated, you know? And it's a way to keep your frequency high without having to resort to things that could be addictive.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mental health opportunities in music. I can't even begin. I can't understate that.
Yeah.
I really can't.
Now you brought up kind of pop music versus some other types of music. Do you think jazz is maybe the best for mental health? Do you think that maybe that depends on the person, or is it the best for you? Is that, how do you see kind of jazz versus other types of music?
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things. One is that if you ever type in Rick DellaRatta, spell my name right, DellaRatta, and then you write famous quote into Google, you'll see a famous quote attributed to me. It's just something I said in an interview once, but basically all I said was, if we fill our souls up with our greatest qualities as human beings, right? If we fill our souls up with creativity, with artistry, with intellectuality, with humanity, with all of these qualities, if we fill our souls up with them, we will have a better chance at avoiding the behavior that leads to destruction. Now you can do that across the board. I mean, that's going to help your mental health, you know. If you're feeling down, you could do that. Now, the second thing is, I was once asked to write an article on what makes me happy for a print company, and they wanted me to list 5 things, and I just put find a blank that works for you, because I'm not really a writer per se, so I thought this would be an easy way to do it. I just wrote that sentence 5 times, and I'm like, I'm going to stick 5 things in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I stuck in these 5 things, and one of them was philosophy, you know. That was the first one, and that I didn't know that. I didn't know that till I did it. Sometimes you find something out about yourself, when you
Yeah.
have to write it down, you wouldn't know. But I didn't know philosophy was so important. I just put philosophy first. But then some of these other things, a hobby, an activity, forgot all 5 of them. But I think the last one was just social interactions, whatever.
Mm.
But I looked at those 5 things, and I was like, if I did if I put those 5 things into a day, it would be pretty positive. By the same token, if you fill up your soul with those qualities, man, you have a really good chance of getting through that day, without a train wreck. And here's the catch. A lot of music has great qualities, but the art form of jazz has all of when I listed all of our I could find them all. So people used to say to me, "Why jazz? Why jazz?" Well, one reason is all of those qualities are in the art form of jazz.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a positive. You want to give yourself the best chances. That's a high percentage play, and you've got all those qualities in jazz. So that's one big positive.
Yeah. Was jazz something is that kind of where you started your love of music? Was there anything else that inspired you just on your musical journey, or has it
Well,
just always been jazz for you?
I would have to say definitely not, but I started out improvising. So
Mm.
I was like about 6 years old, and a piano came in on Christmas Day into the living room, and I assumed that it was brought by Santa. So I was like, if Santa went all that trouble, I mean, it would be disrespectful for me not to figure this out.
I love that.
Yeah, I just felt like, how did he do that? I mean, if he did all this, because, it couldn't fit down the chimney, had to come through the
Mm-hmm.
door, and the reindeer, and I better figure this out on my own. So I was improvising right from the get-go. I wouldn't know what you'd call it. I doubt you would call it jazz, but it was improvisation, and jazz is very improvisational. So I started out in a jazz sort of
Yeah.
sentimentality simply because I was improvising on my own, playing and listening, and I was doing it secretly. Now, then I got to put in piano lessons, which introduced me to classical music, which came next. And then of course there was the music that my friends were listening to on that, and so of course I love that music. And so really jazz didn't come until after I kind of opened up a drawer in a library by accident. I saw all these records, and really
Oh,
my situation was, if I couldn't walk away from it, I had to walk towards it. And so, I couldn't walk away from my own experimentation when I was 6 years old. I'm like, I'm not going to experiment just because my mother put me in lessons. So I didn't walk away. I kept improvising. But then I was like, this teacher's showing me these Bach and Beethoven, and I can tell that they're pretty advanced guys. I can't walk away from them, I can't walk away from. And the jazz thing was like, man, I don't know what this is, but I cannot walk away from it.
Yeah.
So I had my hands full.
That's great. That's great. My 11-year-old really loves all genres of music, but he will pass.
Great.
We'll flip through and we'll land on the classical station because it's one of my favorites, and something will be on. We'll listen to it for a while. And one morning we were listening to it while we were waiting for the bus because it was pouring rain. So I drove down to the bus stop with him, and we're sitting there and we're listening to it. And he said, "I don't know why more people don't like classical music. It's just incredible." I'm like, "That's right, it is." But he listens to all kinds of stuff. It's definitely not just classical. He's
Great.
he's got a pretty broad palette.
So you think he'll be playing an instrument at some point?
He has played guitar in the past. He
Wow,
was in lessons
great.
for about a year and he really enjoyed it.
Okay.
He only stopped this year because we were looking at the schedule and we were like, okay, here's all the things you want to do. Here's where they fit on each day after school. Let's figure out what you can do on each day. And music lessons was one of the ones that he was like, I just can't fit it. So I'll look up YouTube videos instead of take actual lessons. So we'll see if he continues to fiddle with
See
it.
what
He
happens,
might.
yeah.
Yeah, he might.
Okay.
But we also have a piano. My oldest took some piano
Okay.
lessons, and I played piano when I was a kid also. So we've got options. We've got options for him.
For sure, it's always good to have a piano. You never know who's gonna acclimate to it.
Yep. Or just fiddle around. I did a lot of that when I was a
agree.
kid. Just go over to my grandparents' house, which is where the piano started, and start messing around on it and pull the books out of the bench and try to figure out how to play them is kind of what I started doing. And then eventually we moved the piano over to my parents' house because I was playing it so much. My grandparents were just like, "Please take this."
Wow.
And now it's in my house. I've got
Fantastic.
the same piano, so it's still in my house.
Oh, that's nice.
I love this chat, or this comment in the chat. Growling says, one particular genre I think is good for mental health is bossa nova. So a little samba music. I like that. I think that's good.
Well, you should tell your friend that I sing in Portuguese.
Oh, nice. I love that. Now,
Yeah.
Where
Does
did
your
you-
friend have any favorite bossa nova songs? Is it a he or she that's in the chat there?
they would be fine. Growling, I'm not sure of Growling's pronouns.
Okay. But does Growling have any favorite bossa nova songs?
Let's see.
Because I know a lot of them. I used to play in a lot of Brazilian bands, and they used to teach me to sing in Portuguese, and people thought I was
Interesting.
Brazilian. Yeah, and they would come up and talk to me in Brazilian. I was like, I'm so sorry, I can only sing in Portuguese.
Oh, wow. Oh, so you don't
My
know the
third-
language.
I don't know. I mean, I know what the words are because I would study the English lyrics and then learn them. But no, I mean, I can't. But my third CD is called Live in Brazil and the Blue Note. It's a double CD. And what happened was I got a gig at the Blue Note with my own band as a leader, and they recorded it. And then I got invited to Brazil, and they recorded that. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And then finally they said, well, we'll make it a 2 CD set.
Oh,
Live in Brazil.
nice.
The one CD is in Brazil, but the CD in Brazil is very exciting. I mean, I was in Brazil and playing Brazilian music, and it was great.
That's really cool. So Growling clarified it's a he, him there. So, and says, I don't have anything in particular, but of course, Girl from Ipanema is great. Yeah, there you go.
Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça, ela que menina que vê que passa no doce balanço a caminho do mar. Yeah, I know it in Portuguese.
I love that. That's great. That's fantastic. Well, there you go, Growling. A little thing for your enjoyment. Well, I love that you brought up kind of singing in another language because music is often described as a universal language. So how does that idea connect to your work for promoting peace and mental health through your Jazz for Peace World Tour?
The great thing about it is that music is a universal language. Jazz itself is a universal language, and it's spoken everywhere in every country. So it's common ground, and it just unites people in a positive way. And it even brings people together that may have conflicts or that may not get along outside of that. But when you add music, which they both people might love, like bossa nova is very popular. I mean, if I play bossa nova, I mean, I play bossa nova for a Republican and a Democrat, and they'll both love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is, they're coming together. I try to bring people together through commonality.
Mm.
And so I've got music on my side, for the commonality. Well, this guy plays music, it's great. I mean, yeah. And then sometimes, like, well, I like jazz. Well, I like bossa nova. I mean, they like the types of jazz I play. And then I have an outstanding cause that I'm representing. So often I'm doing something to help children. When I was in Brazil, I was helping homeless children in the favelas, the poorest people in the favelas. Yeah. And there were people there, all types of people came to the event because they loved the music and they cared about the children. So what could, it's like, how are you going to argue at that event? You know what I mean? Like, there's too many reasons for you to all come together in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that it's kind of this no matter where you go, right? No matter where you go,
Hmm.
you have something you can connect with people over. I think that that's really beautiful.
Just so you know, that song that he talked about, Girl from Ipanema, I have 6 degrees of separation with just about everything, but let's just take that song. I played a gig once. I played a gig once in Italy, and I almost missed the flight because I kind of was partying and hanging out after the gig and with the musicians and having a great time. And then I was like, oh my God, I got to catch this flight immediately because I had a gig in New York right when I got off the plane. I had to go to a gig. I was going to a gig to play with the drummer who played on that recording. So I had my own
Wow.
Brazilian band, and the drummer from the Girl from Ipanema that played on that recording was on my gig. So I actually played with the drummer from the original recording. Now here's another one. The woman who sang the Girl from Ipanema, okay, her name is Astrid Gilberto. She was married to João Gilberto. I was just sitting at my home one time and the phone rings and I says, hello? She says, hi, Ricky. This is Astrid Gilberto, the Girl from Ipanema. She called me up once because I was on that Brazilian scene,
Mm-hmm.
with all the Brazilian musicians, and she knew who I was, and she called me and she said, I'm inviting a whole bunch of people to go see this great singer, Lenny Andrade is the singer. You're gonna if you show this podcast to Brazilian people, they're gonna go crazy with the story. So this woman, Lenny Andrade, she's kind of like an Ella Fitzgerald of Brazil, okay? And she was in Brazil. She was coming to America, and Astrid Gilberto, the girl from Ipanema, the girl that sang the song, okay? She wanted to make her feel at home on her first night in the United States, the first concert. So she wanted to bring a giant table full of people and musicians and people. And I got the call to accompany her with about a giant table, about 12 people, 15 people at this table, all invited by the girl from Ipanema to listen to this woman. And the funny thing was, a bass player that I played with was in her band, and the drummer. So the drummer and bass player in her band, and I knew the piano player too. I knew all the musicians in that band,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sitting with Astrid Gilberto, and she had this, all-star table of all these, really top people in town, So that was amazing. And then the other crazy thing was the guy who played bass on the Girl from Ipanema, okay? He ended up in Japan.
Mm.
And I was in Japan once, and I said, is that guy, something Mao, his name was, I heard he's yeah, no, call him. I said, I'd just like to meet him, he's a legend. He was like the inventor of bossa nova,
Mm-hmm.
really, this guy. So I went over to his house and I met him, and he has a Japanese wife, and we had dinner and all that stuff over his house, and I got to talk to him, hang out with him. That's the bass player. Now here's another crazy thing. His nephew, His nephew is also was also a bass player and played with Gilberto Gil, who's also a big name in Brazilian music. And he lived on some island, and I had a girlfriend who was a Brazilian lawyer for McDonald's, and she was his client. He represented her, and we ended up on this island with this guy's nephew, who's also a famous bass player, in an island off of Rio. So this could go on for years, but I'm just telling you, it's a small world.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
All
like
from the girl from Ipanema.
that's
Now.
like negative
Just from that
degrees
guy's-
of separation there.
It's insane, isn't it? And that's all from that guy's quote, his comment.
Yep. All in there.
I even have 6 degrees of separation with the guy who they attributed to Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yeah, yep.
You know what I'm talking about? Kevin Bacon is the 6 degrees guy because he's the one who starred in the movie, right?
Yep.
He's married to Mike Stern, who's a great guitar player. Mike Stern's sister is his wife. Now, I've never met him, and I've never met his wife, but I just know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Mike Stern's, some of his band members are very close friends of mine, so it's just insane.
Oh, that's awesome. I love those kinds of things where it's just like, here's how everything connects together. So there you go. Growling. Anyone listening from Brazil, there's a fun story. There's a fun story for you in there. Hey, 488. Hey, Bite. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions about music and mental health, feel free to pop them into the chat. I hear the girl from Ipanema right now coming across.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So after 9/11, that's when you wrote Jazz for Peace. And it's a poem, right?
Yeah, so I was on a rooftop less than a quarter of a mile away from there because I lived in the Lower East Side. And so I got tipped off by a photographer on Wall Street who had been taking pictures of me on the 10th. She had been taking pictures of me on the 10th, and on the 11th, she just called me in the morning, woke me up. I was like, answered the phone, hello? Oh, Rick, I'm so sorry. I just don't know who to call. I said, what's the matter? So she tells me, and I said, let me just go up on the roof. It'll just, this can't be a big deal. I mean, some idiot flew a kite into there. So I open up this little hatch because it's a 5-floor walk up, and I'm on the 5th floor, and I just open up a little hatch, and I'm on the roof in 2 seconds. And I'm like, oh my God, I was like walking into a movie. I was like, what is going on here? And then I was stuck having to deal with this day. I mean, I had a luxury box office seat to a tragedy, and words were coming out. So what I did was I would just write of the words down so that they would stop spinning around in my mouth and in my head, and other thoughts could come in. And so at the end of the day, I just had a bunch of words on a piece of paper. That's all I had to show for 9/11. But it's hard to, again, I couldn't walk away from all of the bizarre things, right? I mean, me witnessing the event, me writing down these words, So I named it Jazz for Peace, and I just, like I said, I didn't walk away from it. I just figured out, I let it dictate what was going to happen next, But I had nothing but a poem at that time.
It's so relatable that you're just like, I had to write things down so they would stop swirling, because that is what I wind up having to do if something is just overwhelming me. I used to keep a notepad by my bed because I have anxiety and things would keep me up at night, and I would just like roll over and be like, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm just going to write this down so I can remember, so my brain can say, okay, you've written it down. You're going to action it later. I can stop obsessing about it right now. But yeah, just getting it out onto paper. That's a very jazz concept.
It is. Now I'm going to say something just to get that other one, because just to end that other conversation. So a bass player that was playing with that woman, Lenny Andrade. Here's something crazy that happened during COVID. I was sleeping, and all I knew was that this bass player, because he also had a house on that island. Remember I told you the island where this guy had a house? This guy also had a house on that island. I didn't see him, but he told me that the other guy bought a house on the island too. And I'm having a conversation with him like it's like we're 3 inches away from each other, right? And I keep wondering, why am I having a conversation? I haven't seen this guy in like 8 years, and why me? And why is he talking to me? And we're having such a conversation, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't even think I'm awake. I was like, I'm talking to him for an hour. I'm like, I don't even think I'm even awake. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm not awake. What is going on? So now I finally wake up and I'm like, that is so strange. I turn my computer on and I go going on whatever it is. And I clicked on Facebook and there was a post that he had passed away
Oh,
during
wow.
the night. During the night. So during the
Yeah.
time that he was passing away, I'm having a conversation with him.
Yeah.
That's the
Wow.
other bass. Yeah, that's that
Mm-hmm.
bass player. So I don't know. All right, so back to this now. So that will close out. So now we're on.
All right, so here's
Now
a
we're
great
yeah.
question from chat. Bite Mark is here. She would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
Well, I'm not really. I only wrote one poem first of all, and I almost felt guilty because when I wrote the poem "Jazz for Peace," I basically didn't know what to do with it, and the
Mm-hmm.
whole place was closed down. And what happened was the I didn't know what to do, if anything was ever going to happen with this poem.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they open everything up. And right when they opened up, I was like, well, wait a minute. If they're going to open it up, I have to get down to Savannah, Georgia. I'm supposed to be at a jazz festival. But I didn't think I was going to, I thought we were going to have to cancel the whole festival because the whole thing was closed. They opened it, and I had to go literally to the airport. Like
Mm-hmm.
3 hours after they opened the country, I had to go to the airport. Now I'm down there, and I got this poem, and I said, how many people are going to be at your festival? They said 8,500, and you're the headliner, so they're all going to hear you. So I'm like, oh my God. Because I don't know, the only thing I could think of to do with this poem was recite it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here I am. I only wrote one poem in my whole life. Poor Edgar Allan Poe, right? These people, I mean, they died, they a tortured life. These poems, nobody listened to their poems. My poems would be heard by 8,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first poem I ever wrote. So, I did feel bad for every other poet in the world. But this poem got 8,500 people heard it, and then it resonated like crazy. Now I don't know if she
Mm-hmm.
wants to hear. I could recite the words if you wanted to hear them, or I don't know. It's up
Sure.
to
I
you.
would love to. Yeah.
Well, I would do it. If I do it, it would be something I make up at the piano. I don't know what it will be, but
Okay.
I'll just make it up. Okay, let's see what happens here. I hear jazz for peace, coming through the trees. And in my heart, it fills me like a celebration. I see the light, and I want to follow, inspired by the past contributions of those that came before. Laid the groundwork in this universal language. and see that the gift of giving is our greatest privilege. I hear jazz. For peace.
That was great. I think that's probably the best, or at least the most involved response we've had to Bite Mark's question on the show, for sure. That was beautiful. I love it.
The most thorough answer.
The most thorough answer, absolutely. Bite Mark says you can't hear me, but I'm clapping. There you go. Yeah, you'll get lots of clapping that we can't hear from that. That's really cool. So that's just kind of it just kind of came to you while you're up there.
Well, yeah, I had the words, and
Hmm.
then I recited the words at the festival. I
Yeah.
didn't, and then when I got back up to New York, people were calling me like, what the heck happened down in Savannah, Georgia? We're hearing this thing. You recited something. People were crying in the audience, and everybody got
Mm.
emotional. And I told them, and then they were like, could you put that to music maybe for our concert? Because I had another concert coming up. Maybe you could put it to music, they said. And I thought, well, maybe I could. So I put it to music. It was more like it wasn't what I played here, because what I do right now,
Yeah.
I just made something up.
Yeah.
Like whatever I did now can only be heard on your show, because I don't know what it was. I can't repeat it. But at that time, I had a quartet, that I had to
Mhm.
bring, so I wrote a kind of a little thing and I recited it. I just wrote some chords down for them to play underneath me, and while I recited the poem that way. But anyway, the article came, the press came, and DellaRatta starts concert out with Jazz for Peace, and so everyone's like, "What is the heck?" So now it was kind of launched, whether I liked it or
Yeah.
not. It was out there,
Yeah.
So it
You're
was
kind
always
of
like, "What
like
am I going to do next? What am I?"
punted into the into the world with it.
Yeah, well, it's like, well, what happens now? I don't know. I just figured, I just have to be patient and kind of let the game come to me. Whatever's
Yeah.
going to happen will reveal itself,
Hmm. Yeah. Now, you said that people were, in tears, and this was right on the heels of 9/11. So, did that help shape your understanding of kind of music's role in processing trauma and grief, especially as a collective?
Well, I did know from playing a lot of music and a lot of bands and a lot of styles and traveling all over the place that, music did have this power, and it was going to
Hmm.
have to play a role if we were going to straighten this thing out, the arts and culture. And I still believe that the arts and culture are way underutilized.
Mm.
But, who am I, little old me, But if they ever like considered my advice, we might get somewhere, because unfortunately I'm probably right. I'm just not, in a position of power to exact it on the, mandate it or something. You're going to mandate something, mandate arts and culture, do that. But, you know, it's it has so much ability to do so much good.
Mm.
That's the thing. And so I started to realize it, because after that I was like, well, what am I going to do next? And I thought, well, I'll play a few concerts around. And then I thought, well, you know what? There's probably a few outstanding causes in New York City. There's got to be about 12 or 13 out of 18 million people. It's got to be about 18 outstanding causes. But there's like 80,000 registered nonprofits in New
Hmm.
York, and some of them are, nonsense, but a lot of them, some of them are really good. They're really great people that really want to make a difference. And so I started playing concerts, trying to figure out who those people are and help them. So while I was doing that, I was telling my manager, listen, could you just like call over to that United Nations and just tell them about me and tell them I want to put together a multicultural, And she kind of looked like me like it was. I said, look, just do it in your spare time. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're gonna do. Redirect you here and direct you there and give you the runaround. I don't know, but just can you do that for me? Just once in a while. And then months and months later, she said she was telling me about some gigs I had coming up. And she was like, okay, you're going to be in Paris here, and then you're going to take the drummer from Paris, and you're going to go to Italy, and you guys are going to play with an Italian bass player. Then you're going to go to Luxembourg, and that's going to be solo, and then someone's going to pick you up and drive you to. And I was like, oh, and that United Nations thing, yeah, they want to do that. And I said, if they want to do that, you have to make sure one musician is Israeli and one is Palestinian.
Ah,
That's what
yeah.
I said. I don't care where the rest of them are from.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, they can be from Texarkana. You know, they can be anywhere. I said they got one as long as one. And I said, as long as one is. And I said, because I knew that I had played with, you know, Israelis and Palestinians before, because they come here to play like everybody else. They come to New York to learn, study jazz. So, and they don't, you know, they don't have any problem that I ever saw. I never saw them have any problem with each other on the bandstand, and certainly didn't at the United Nations. But so that happened, and then the benefit concert series happened, musical instrument donation. We just start thinking, what can we do? And then, you know, educational things in the schools, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we racked up a bunch of, you know, we scored a bunch of goals, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you took this thing and you were just like, how can I help? Because, you know, we started off this show kind of by talking about how some people get really greedy with stuff, right? And they're like, I'm used to doing it this way. Who else can I screw over to get that next step up? But you kind of did the opposite. You were like, I've had this success. How can I help other people?
You know what it is? One thing does lead to another. So that's where everybody gets in trouble. So with the greed thing, they bite that apple, and and that might be fine at the beginning, you know. But the problem is what it leads to.
Yeah.
You know, eventually it leads to another step in that direction. And as you get further and further down that rabbit hole or off those train tracks, that's when it gets more and more distorted, more and more perverse. But in this direction, it gets more beautiful and wondrous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, I'm at the United Nations. I'm bringing Palestinians and America. I don't care if anybody else thinks it's a big thing. I think it's a big thing. You know, to me, it's a big thing. If you don't think so, that's on you. I think it's a big thing, and I can't believe I'm doing it. You know, so one thing. So you know, when you go. I think it's a good idea to try to get yourself going in the right direction, because when you do something bigger and bigger, it's better.
Yeah.
It's more, you know, it's making it better. Whereas in the other direction, like I said, you're going to get yourself in some crazy scenario where, you know, how are we going to, we're going to report record profits by, you know, denying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By doing the wrong thing. And so, yeah.
Yeah,
this can be reversed.
It's definitely just the complete opposite. I that wasn't planned, y'all. We weren't planning to have that be the juxtaposition here, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be anything that you think, okay, I'll just do that and get away with it, and it'll be fine. Then I'll just go back to my life. But it's for some reason or other. One bad step, for some reason leads to another bad step.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And these people get further and further. But you know, when you watch a movie, you ever see these mafia movies? At the end, they're whacking everybody. You know what I mean? At the beginning, they're just doing little petty crimes here and there. But by the end, they're paranoid and they're whacking, killing. You know.
Yeah.
So. And when you look at this problem in the music industry, you know, these people are poisoning each other. I mean, in other words, it escalates and it just gets crazy, absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So you want to go crazy in the good direction.
In the good direction,
You're gonna
yes.
go crazy, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now you're a composer and a performer, and I know that the creative process can come with a lot of emotional highs and emotional lows as well. Is that something that you've experienced, and if so, how do you navigate that?
Well, you know, here's a book. It's called Paving the Path for Peace Through Music, where you can read this book and really figure out how I did navigate it. I wrote the foreword, because I'm not the author of the book, but I was asked to write the foreword, and I wrote that about Mozart and two different musicians. Like, the other musician was just a regular guy who was given a musical instrument by his father, and he kind of just self-taught. And I just put, you know, Mozart, who went through, you know, terrible situation because he got so darn good. He was intimidating to the archbishop, and, you know, you have these issues. envy, greed. See, we were talking about greed just now, but you know what? I hate to say it, envy's even worse.
Mm.
Envy is more destructive than greed, and envy is all over the arts. So what happens, you do something, you advance, but now you're causing envy by the few people who do appreciate what you're doing, envy you, and now they want to destroy you. So there's a lot to navigate. And I was on a podcast a few hours ago where people wanted to help me they wanted to know if I had a problem, and they were going to help me with it. And these people were praying for me on a podcast like 3 hours ago. I rarely do two of them in one day, but this was just the way it was scheduled. And this collab, I want you to see when it comes out. They're literally trying to heal me, because I was telling them I wake up with the burden of our world on my shoulders when I wake up in the morning. I don't go to bed with it, but for some reason or other, during the time I'm sleeping, for some reason or other, all the world's problems just fall onto my shoulders. So, you do have, as you help people and do stuff like that, you also get empathy. And then you have to navigate your own issues, because it's treacherous in the arts. It really is treacherous, and you got to dodge all those bullets. And you get hit by a few bullets here and there. You're not going to dodge everything, and so you have to really have to be cognizant to not lose your brain. To go crazy yourself during the process.
Yeah. I love that you went from a praying podcast to this one. What a wild difference.
Yeah, this guy, they were a couple, and that's what they do. They try to heal people.
I love
live
that.
on the air with everybody watching.
That's really cool.
I've
Good
never
for
been
them.
on anything
Yeah.
like it before.
Yeah, that's a
it was
really cool
phenomenal.
concept.
From New Orleans, and they love jazz because they're from New Orleans.
Okay. Well, do you mind?
Never healed a jazz musician.
Do you mind sharing the name of their podcast? I would love to go give them a listen.
I should. Yes, I have to share. I will. I have to do that. I'll have to get. You know what? I have it. I just have to get that. It's Yeah. I'm gonna share. Let me get that name.
Yeah, because I would love to go give them a listen, and especially when your episode comes out. Definitely let me know when that episode comes out. I'll go give that a listen for sure.
Yes. All right. So it is. Dean Sunseri is the host, and his wife. Dean, and I think his wife is Lisa Sunseri, Sunsery. And I didn't write the name of his podcast in my schedule, but I'll bet I can find it. Let's
see. He's got professional speaking.
Here it is. All right, I found something. It's called Transform You.
Okay.
Real life coaching. Transform, and then just the
letter U. Yeah.
So Transform University, I guess, and Real Life Coaching, and that's the name of it. Transform You Real Life Coaching. Were you able to find it?
I found a website. I don't see the specific where to listen for the podcast. So I'll have to find that and share a link with everyone.
Okay. Yeah, it was phenomenal. I'm telling you, it was really
neat.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing. I mean, you yourself have empathy, which is a good thing, and you care for other people, but it can be overwhelming too, because there's so many things we got to straighten out on this planet.
Yeah, absolutely. So what role does self-expression and music play in managing stress or anxiety for a musician, or for people who listen to music also?
Well, I mean, for the musician, in my opinion, if you are a musician, you have, at any moment, you can just tune out, sit down with your instrument, and, you know what I mean, allow all of that stuff to come, just create another, it's like a safe space, and it's an enlightening space, and it's you can really transform yourself at any moment with music. Just sit down and play, and just be at one with your instrument. So for the musician, it's phenomenal if they take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now for the person who's not a musician, I would absolutely say that you can, like I said, if you explore, if you're willing to explore music and find things that really work for you, absolutely, you can, put on music that really takes you on a journey.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to do a demonstration just of kind of putting something together that might help with your stress or anxiety or anything like that?
You mean like play something that
Yeah,
might
yeah.
calm somebody down? Well, yeah, I'll give you an example. I mean, this is a little song. If you want to calm yourself, like I'll play a little ballad. This is a song that was by, it was written by Elvis Costello.
All
I don't
right.
know who that is. Yeah,
Yep.
it was written by Elvis Costello. He's a Texas guy, isn't he? Was he from Texas? I don't know.
I don't
But
know if he
anyway,
was from Texas.
okay. We'll have to find out where he was from. But he wrote a song called Almost Blue, and then a jazz musician recorded it called Chet Baker, and it ended up in a movie called Let's Get Lost. And I ended up playing at a club here in New York called Birdland. And the girl I was seeing at the time, my girlfriend, she was sitting at the bar and she kept saying, you know, the people kept saying, why doesn't he play more Chet Baker? Because they liked the way I sang. They thought I sang like Chet Baker. So I ended up learning, more things that he did. So this is a song called Almost Blue, and this might have a calming effect. Let's see what
Okay.
happens. Almost blue, almost doing things we used to do. There's a girl here and she's almost you. All the things that your eyes once promised, I see in hers too. Now your eyes are red from crying. Oh, almost blue. Flirting with this disaster became me. It named me as the fool who only aimed to be almost blue. It's almost touching. It will almost do. There's a part of me that's always true. Always. Not all good things come to an end now. It is only a chosen few. I have seen such an unhappy couple. Almost me, almost you, almost blue.
I could definitely see how that could have a calming effect on somebody. It's interesting sometimes, you just get into the music part of it and sometimes you get into the lyrics part of it and it's like you take away probably what you need from it or what your brain is reading into it at the time. But yeah, that's really a nice one.
Thank you. Yeah, very pretty song.
Yep, and beautifully played.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, how do you balance the emotional demands of creating and generally performing with your mission of spreading peace and just kind of this general mental health awareness?
Well, I really just want to keep putting the example out there that we can redefine peace by helping our outstanding causes, because when you help an
Mm,
outstanding cause, if it's the right cause, if it's a cause that really cares about their mission statement, you're reaching everybody that in their outreach. So you're solving a problem for today, and when you solve problems for today, you actually stop the problems for tomorrow. So we can do so much just by helping outstanding causes. But not only that, when you do it with the arts and culture themselves have a chance to have a profoundly positive impact on a person. And it's one thing to go out and have a good time at a fundraiser, which people do all the time. But when something affects you in a profoundly positive way, that's a game changer, because we've studied people who have been affected in a profoundly positive way by let's say the art form of jazz, and it had a positive effect on their whole life.
mm,
There are people. We studied a guy named Charles Black who had attributed his achievements to the art form of jazz, and they said, "How is that?" And he said, "Well, he was a young kid and he happened to hear a jazz band in his town growing up, and Louis Armstrong happened to be the trumpet player in that band, and he was fixated on the trumpet player, and he said." He decided that that person was a genius after he left that day. He was a young kid, and just the fact that he had come to that conclusion made him say, "Well, wait a minute. How is it possible that a genius isn't allowed to vote? How is it possible that a genius, has to use a different bathroom or a different this, or has to ride in the back of the bus?" So, in other words, and then he ended up being author, going so far with these thoughts that he was actually one of the authors of Brown versus the Board of Education and other great American documents, and he became a congressman and a senator and this, that, and the other. And so, like I said, we're creating a situation where we could, and on top of everything else that we try to do with the event, it could have a profoundly positive
mm.
effect on one person. And imagine all the good that kid is going to go out and
Yeah,
do if that happens.
yeah, absolutely. So you just kind of pour your heart into it, and you're like, "This is." It's just your passion. It seems like is what I've gotten from my conversation so far with you is this is just what you are here for. It's what you're on this earth for.
Well, you have to, what you have to do, you still have to find a balance
Yeah.
in your life, because there's so much there's so much administrative concerns that go into when
Mm-hmm.
you do something with music, especially in the arts, because unless you're raking in a lot of money, like with rap music or something like that, a Britney Spears, then you can have a manager. But then she ends up like a basket case because they
Right.
steal her money.
Yep.
So you get screwed either way. But with us, there isn't enough money in the arts for somebody to come and manage you and take care of all that so they can steal it.
Yeah.
But so you have to do a lot. There's a lot of things that fall on your lap, a lot of responsibility, and so you have to try to find a balance where you're not getting too far away from what you're there to
Right.
really do, and that is to concentrate on the music.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that your work has supported hundreds of causes, and you talked about that a little bit already. What has been the most rewarding or eye opening moment in your Jazz for Peace efforts?
There's been so many. It's hard to choose one. But I mean, if you could like if you could maybe pick, just I should tell people there is a website where you can go to. It's called, it's not jazzforpeace.org, which is our website, but it's another site where we keep a lot of archived things, and it's called jazzforpeace.wordpress.com. And then if you go to that site and you just add a / about, you get to a page where you can read everybody else's words, not ours. And you can actually read the words of all these hundreds of people that we've helped in their own, you know what I mean? It's their own, whatever it is, narrative of what happened, and just see what they had to say. But I mean, if you could just put your finger on a globe, where would you? What could you just pick a country, a city, a state? Because I could tell you probably an inspiring story from just about anywhere in the world.
Well, I'm in Texas, so we could go with Texas, or we talked about Brazil earlier. We talked about Japan earlier.
Let's do Texas. Let's do Texas. So, I've been to a bunch of places in Texas. One is Houston. I've been a bunch of times to Houston, but I've also been to Dallas. And now, what are some of the other cities in Houston, in Texas?
Austin's a big one for music.
Yeah, I haven't been to Austin. I would love to go
Oh
there.
man, there's some great things going on in Austin. There's like San Antonio and Fort Worth.
San Antonio, I've been. San Antonio, I've also been. Okay, so so San Antonio is an example. I went there I had a guy. I was playing in New Mexico for Indian tribe, an Indian tribe, and the bass player, the drummer's name was Louis Speaking Eagle, because he was an Indian, and he was a drummer. And Louis Speaking Eagle had connections in LA, so sometimes I would play in LA, and Louis Speaking Eagle would pick me up at the airport to play there. And then sometimes I would play in San Diego, and people from that Indian tribe would pick me up at that airport, and I'd stay at their house with their family, and they'd take me to the concert and all that, because they had people there, because they remembered I helped their tribe so much. And this bass player, for some reason or other, has something going on with San Antonio. So he kind of connected, got the musicians together and this, that, and the other. And I did something in San Antonio in a bakery, and I gave away a drum that I actually brought on the plane to a music school that is a percussion school, a samba school. It's a samba school. And I gave that guy a drum, and there's a picture of it on our instrument donation program. So jazzforpeace.org / instrument donation I don't know, PDF, HTML, PDF, whatever it is. But there's been a bunch of them in Houston. And in Houston, there's a blind drummer. This guy is blind, and he is absolutely amazing. He's an incredible drummer, and he's blind. And it's almost spiritual playing with him. It's almost a spiritual connection, because we just kind of, he can't see me, but we hear each other. And I almost close my eyes when I play with him too, so neither one of us can see each other. And we just kind of make some kind of a magical connection. I mean, if you ever want to see me play somewhere, Houston's a good place because of that drummer.
I love that.
Yeah. And I've helped out a bunch of different causes, and then there was a little jazz club, and sometimes I would have the concert in that jazz club so that I could bring all the people in there to do the fundraiser, and then I would stay and be the entertainment in the club for the night. So after the fundraiser would end, the general public would fill the place, and I would do a couple of shows for them.
Yeah. So just kind of spreading that wherever you can, just spreading that awareness and enjoying the music, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just the way it came together, you know. It was just the way it came together. But in Dallas, there's a guy, he's a great bass player. He's originally from Cincinnati. He came to New York. He played with all these great musicians, and he got a job in Dallas because there's a great music school where you are, near where you are. It's called North Texas State, right?
There's several, University of North Texas has a great music program.
Yes. That one is resonates all the way here.
Yeah.
I mean, people in all over the world, they know about this place, okay? North Texas State, he got a job there. He's on the faculty. And he called other guys, so the whole band was from the faculty of North Texas that I played with. And I did a concert there to help an organization from Kenya in Dallas. And and he came and kind of assisted with it and played with me and all that stuff. His name is Lynn Seaton, and he's a great bass player. And you know what? Maybe if I do something for you guys out there in your town, maybe Lynn will help me out, help me organize it.
Listen, let me know if you ever come up here. I would love to come in person.
What we need is an outstanding cause to give the funds to.
Yeah.
Because, see, that's what we need help with, because you have to realize there's all kinds of outstanding causes, and there's no way we have the time and resources to research them all and stuff like that. So we're dependent on word of mouth. We depend on people to say, hey, my sister has this incredible organization, and they're so dedicated. And I'm saying, great. Now we've got the organization. Let's raise the funds for them. You see what I mean? Let's put this together.
That's really neat
for them. So that's how we do it.
That's really cool. So how do people let you know about these organizations? How do they go about saying, my sister has this great thing? How could they get to you?
One way would be to watch your podcast.
There you go. Click on all those links I posted earlier, right?
Yes. Yeah, because I never really know. Do you know what I mean? Somehow this organization that helps people in Kenya, and the thing is, I've been to Kenya. I've been to Africa 9 times. And the Prime Minister of Kenya is a big fan of Jazz for Peace. So that might be how this thing happened in Dallas. But wait a minute, there was 2 other events in Dallas that we did. There were other events in Dallas. They were for animal organization. It was for an animal organization. I think I did 2 events for them. It was an animal organization, and that was very early on. We did something in Dallas for an animal organization. Mark Neese, this guy's name is, and we did something for him, and they absolutely loved it. And here's what they taught us. They called us up 3 years later, and they said, I want you to know that the sponsors that came on board with us for your concert, every year they sponsor our organization. Oh,
wow.
So they're with us every year. So that's when we started to learn that we were building something that was going to help people for years down the road. So we called it an empowerment tree. But it was the Dallas organization that said, listen, you're bringing sponsors in. They continue to stay with the organization after the event. So that's when we realized, okay, that's got to be a branch of the empowerment tree. You know what I mean? So one thing we do is we expand your donor base. And those are called the roots of the tree. And then we have these branches, and one of the branches is local business sponsors. And like I said, the local business sponsors for Dallas would stay. They stayed with them, so we knew we could do that for other organizations and give them long-term partnerships in the local community. Now, once you have all that set up, the next branch is publicity and awareness. So not only is the organization more unified, okay, from the event, like I said, the roots of the tree, they're more unified, and they're broadening their donor base, but they're also more sponsored and they're more publicized from the publicity and awareness, But then there's other branches like new and prestigious supporters, so they become more prestigious because they're associated with a world-class artistic, they're associated with what some people call one of the most significant cultural events of our time, and now your organization is associated that permanently, Wow, Jazz for Peace is behind them, you know what I mean? So you're more prestigious, and we're able to bring prestigious people to that event, So in other words, we were able to bring so-and-so or somebody from Dallas, you know what I mean, to that event. That was, a big cheese. They're like, whoa, how did you get this guy? Well, we got him because we're Jazz for Peace, and you are doing some good things. So we went to the guy and said, listen, listen, listen to us because that's who we are. We're all over the world. You check us out, but we want you to support them. And then they said, well, gosh darn it. They're right, Mike. Why didn't you tell me? I'm telling you now. Get over
Yeah.
this event, and they come over there, and they meet them, and they support them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we want you to be more publicized, better funded,
Yeah.
more, you know what I mean, more prestigious, more befriended, more sponsored than ever before, and that is our goal in terms of a helpful step forward for every organization.
That's really neat. I actually know a great animal organization that's local, so I'll have to go on and see if I can submit that one and get you guys to come back to Dallas so I can attend.
Exactly, exactly. Tell them about us and
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what we
I
can pull
will.
off. Yeah.
Most definitely. All right, well, we're coming up on the last couple of questions. So, folks who are here in the chat right now with us live, feel free to pop any last minute questions you might have for Rick, or about music and mental health, or Jazz for Peace, or anything y'all want to ask about. And we'll get through these last couple questions here. What is your favorite life hack?
Now, I thought, okay, I had trouble coming up with something because the first thing that came to mind, this is a funny story now, but because it can be a goofy story, right? I think you
Oh, of
said
course,
in your
yeah.
questions. Okay, well, this is very goofy. Well, I'm a ski bum, I told you, and I'm actually the founder of Jazz for Peace. I'm also the founder of Ski Bums for Peace. And I'm going to see these guys in a few days because I'm going out to Utah to ski with all these guys. Now, my first year there, I met these guys, and they said, well, what is your job? I said, my job is to ski. That's what my job here while I'm here. That's what I'm came here to ski. And, oh, my God. So they took me this place and all these crazy places to ski. Anyway, at the mountain I was skiing at, we have people from Sundance that come to Snowbird Alta, where I ski. But a lot of my friends live in Provo, and they ski at Sundance because that's where they grew up. They have a season pass there. So these Sundance people coming to visit us, we had something called a magic jacket. Now, this was a jacket that had a ticket on it, okay? But the ticket had never been pinged. It had never been clipped. You follow me?
Yep.
So what we do is, anyone who comes visit us, he wears the magic jacket with the ticket on it. Now, we try to get him up. Our goal is to get him up the first chair of the day, high enough to where they no longer check your ticket because they already checked you at the bottom.
Yep.
You see what I mean? Now you're at the top, and now he can ski for free all day at the top.
Yeah.
And then he just skis down at the end. And we had this, and so what we do is, these guys were, I wasn't the expert, they were the expert. They had like a list of the lifties' names.
Yeah.
And this is crazy now. All the lifties they had on a list, and we look at the list and we check the lifties. Okay, that guy there, he smokes pot, so you got to give him a joint. This guy here, you got to give beers. Sometimes they'd have a new guy, and we like, what are we going to do? If it's a new guy and he's not on the list for anything, there's no way to bribe him, we have to run interference with that guy. So what we would do is, a couple of us would go in front and start ruckus, start fighting each other. We'd act like we don't get along. We're flying over the line and we're running into knocking over people with their skis. And this guy comes over to figure out what the fuss is all about. And that guy goes up the lift.
You get on,
the other
yeah.
guys are on the because the other guys are on the payroll. You know what I mean? So the other guys get their joint and their beers, and he goes up and gets past this guy who's assisting us. You ask, are you idiots? Let's stop fighting with each other. That kind of thing. And I'm sorry, sirs, we're so sorry. But as soon as we see the guys on the list, we apologize profusely.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Guy,
Then you're
so
friends
sorry.
again. All good.
It'll never happen. Yeah. And I'll tell him, this guy's, it's his fault. He's a jerk. We make all kinds of stuff up, but they call it running interference. So that was our hack, but we got 85 days out of one.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell anybody at the resort, but we got this magic jacket. 85 days, nobody got, and then somehow it got pinged. Somebody screwed up and they snapped a ticket. But anyway, that was the hack, the magic jacket.
That's great. I like that. Well, speaking of magic, it is time for the magic moment. So if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
If I could do that, I think it would be, I believe that mental health can be addressed by raising the frequency of the person who is debilitated,
Mm.
and raising his frequency with activities and with things that enlighten him and raise him out. Because even though you have something wrong with you, if you constantly are embracing all of these, all of these good things, you can give yourself, again, a better chance not to get pulled into the vortex. A lot of people with mental problems, they're susceptible to getting pulled into a vortex. That's what it looks like. But I
Mm-hmm.
could be wrong. But it seems like they're susceptible, and so you have to keep them out of all of that, and give them a chance to strengthen, and also give them, again, hacks which constantly enable them to help themselves to keep their, you know what I mean, their spirit high, their energy high, their frequency high,
Mm-hmm.
and give them a chance to stay out of those dark tunnels that
Yeah.
can mess up their health. And you know what? Society's not doing its job to do that. Society's making people crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we need to be doing the opposite.
Yeah. I think that's very true. Very true. Well, Rick, thank you so much for joining us here today to talk about music and mental health. This has been a lovely, fun, fantastic conversation. So thank you just for taking the time.
My pleasure. So glad you enjoyed it. And likewise, I had a great time, Mama.
And
MommaFoxFire. Thank you.
yeah, and I'm going to share all of your links one more time, your website, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, all those good things. And while I'm doing that, is there anything you want to talk about that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover, or anything like that? I'll just kind of give the floor to you for a minute.
Well, I would like to say that Jazz for Peace has evolved from all of these achievements. We now have really good ideas to solve our world's problems if anybody wants to listen to them. Like, for example, because we've been working with Israel and Palestine for so long, we actually have a proposal that was voted 96% of Israelis and Palestinians and the rest of the world voted 96% in favor of
Wow.
our proposal, which would put a stop to that situation. But there's other ones too. We have a philanthropic, we want to have a philanthropic economy that is trickle up. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of the trickle down economy, but it can run parallel, because the trickle down economy is not, it's out of balance. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the rich people are the ones getting all this trickle. I mean, nothing's trickling down to us. But if you have a trickle up economy for philanthropy, you can offset it, and you can address a lot of the problems created by the trickle down economy. Other problems, I mean, you can take the problem that you can take the technological advances, and you can use them in a way that benefits society by helping to give people the opportunity to find their own superpower and benefit our world by finding the passion within inside people that is what they're meant to be, and giving them a chance to do their good deed for our world and enrich themselves by doing it.
Yeah, I love that.
Using the money that's being made by AI, because people don't have to do those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, we've our journey has led us to solutions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, Rick. I really appreciate it. And this has been just an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Anytime.
All right, everybody, give me just a minute to disconnect with Rick. I will be right back. Stick around. And Bite Mark says, thanks for being here also. I had a good time. Excellent.